Just want to share how my clay recycling system works. Now this has been saving me a lot of time, not only in my own studio, but at work too. And the way this works is you put your clay slurry up top. There's a pillowcase here, 5-gallon bucket. There's holes drilled in the bottom of the 5-gallon bucket. This wood piece holds it up and it allows all the water to drain out here. And the water comes out crystal clear because it's been filtered through the pillowcase, so you don't have to worry about cleaning up, your sink or clogging up your pipes. And at school, sometimes we even have the kids throw their throwing water or slurry clay right into the bucket so we don't have problems with clogged sinks. This really saves you a lot of time, and it's been a lifesaver for me. So hopefully you enjoy seeing this and maybe you can make your own. Now the basic idea behind the system is you're going to take a clay slurry, whether it's from your throwing bucket and your slop from your throwing water, or from trimmings that you've wetted down, or from clay that you bone dry clay you've added water to, or wherever you're getting wet clay, and you're going to put it in this pillowcase, and the pillowcase is going to filter out the wet clay from the water, and it's just an extra step in the middle that's really going to keep your plaster slab from getting saturated. And of course, after you need to let it set overnight, or even longer if you want more water to come out before putting it on your plaster slab. Now that it's had some time to sit and settle, you can see right here, over 2 liters, or about just a little bit over a half gallon of water, has come out of all that clay that I put inside of the bucket. You can imagine how much water 2 liters is. That would be enough to completely saturate a slab of plaster and make it so it would take a long time to dry out the clay. So this system really helps get the water out of the clay before you put it on your plaster slab or put it out to dry on a board, and it'll really make your life easier. Not only that, if you notice this water in here is crystal clear, so it's not going to be plugging up your sinks or anything like that. You can pour it right down the drain and not worry about any clogs in your plumbing. Let's take a look at the water. Okay, you can see how there's no clay in the water, it's just clean water. Now in my system I use a wood ring to attach to the bucket to suspend the slurry bucket on top of the catch bucket. Now I had a lot of fun making this, and if you want to keep on watching the rest of the video you can see how I made it and the rest of the details. Another simpler method that you might want to just try if you're just trying this out, you could take a brick or something else to raise this bucket up on the inside, put it in here in your catch bucket, and that'll lift the slurry bucket and have a place for the water to drain. Additionally, you might also be able to find a shorter bucket and put it on top of a longer bucket if they have the same size diameter hole. Okay, you're welcome to watch the rest of the video if you want to see how I made this and more details about my clay recycling system, or if this gave you a hand. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thank you. This clay recycling system works much like a coffee maker. In a coffee maker we have 2 parts. We have the coffee filter, and then we have it's generally plastic or metal, the part that holds the coffee maker. So our clay system is much the same. So if we were making a cup of coffee, for example, we would put this system on there. We would pour the hot water through here, and it would make the coffee, and only the water would come into our cup, or that's what we'd hope. And the coffee grounds would stay in here. So solids stay in here, liquids go into here. The clay recycling system works the same way. What we have here is we have a 5-gallon bucket, a pillowcase, so this would be the coffee filter in our example, and this would be the plastic pour over piece that holds the coffee filter. And this down here is another 5-gallon bucket that this is suspended on, that would be kind of represented in our cup. So the goal is to have the solids up here and the liquids coming down here so we can get rid of them so it doesn't oversaturate our plaster slab. So what the pillowcase does is it holds back all the clay slurry and just allows the water to drip out, and then it gets caught in this bucket. Now I've seen other examples where people put bricks or something in here to hold a piece of fabric up, but I've really found that this system is a lot easier because you can, at the end of the day, you can just lift it up and dump the extra water out, and it really is easy. So let's go outside and we can see how we made this. To make this system, the first thing I did was I took a piece of birch plywood and I traced around the bottom of my bucket, and then I cut it out with a jigsaw. Now I also rounded off the corners with my router and cut off the corners and made them round with my jigsaw as well. You wouldn't have to do that. There's many simpler other ways, but hey, if it's going to be functional, it can look good too, right? So that's the next thing you're going to need to do is drill some holes in the bottom of the bucket. I found that the size doesn't really matter that much, but just for the example here, I'm using a 5/8 inch drill bit, and I'm going to drill several holes. Also, the pattern doesn't matter so much, and I'm sure you could even cut out the whole bottom of the bucket too, and that would probably work, just as long as you have somewhere for the water to drain out. Okay, now then the next thing, of course, is to put the pillowcase inside, and the depth is really important here. What I'm trying to do is I'm going to try to keep the pillowcase off the bottom of the bucket. If it sticks to the bottom of the bucket, then the water will not drain out as fast. So I'm just going to put this in here. You can see how the pillowcase just happens to fit perfect. And again, I'm going to check it. Now, this is it's just about that far off the bottom of the bucket. Now what I'm using right now is I'm using binder clips to keep the pillowcase from sliding. It is working good, but they're rusting. The ones that I'm using right now are rusting, and I'm also concerned about losing these in my reclaim. What I'm going to be trying using a grommet kit like this and putting some grommets on the side of the pillowcase, and then experimenting with stainless steel hardware to keep that from sliding up. I haven't tried it yet. I'll make a video update when I do, but if you have any comments or suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Now, to finish the assembly, all I need to do is take my plywood base, put it on the bucket with the holes, and set it on top of my second bucket. And then I'd be able to put my slurry in here, and it would drain. Now, in a school situation where students are most likely hand building, I skip this step, and I just put the reclaim into the clay slurry system and just let it drain out normally. Or we actually just take the throwing water and just pour it in there instead of putting it in a bucket. But at home, I use porcelain, and I like it, and I'm throwing on the wheel, and I like the clay to be perfect, so I blend it really well with the plunger and make sure all the clay can get saturated. I also make my own porcelain, and I do it this way. I do it in a big barrel like you see here, and I mix it really good, and I mix it really wet, and I feel like that really helps the clay particles get saturated with water, and it makes it really easy to throw with, really finely mixed porcelain, and I really like doing it that way. This is an extra step. You wouldn't have to do this. And in fact, if you're in a school situation, I'd probably recommend you don't, because it does take a little extra time and you're going to be adding water to it. But if you're like me and you're throwing and you're using really good high quality Grawley porcelain, it's worth the extra effort. After you have the bucket filled up with slurry, you're going to want to let it sit overnight, or possibly even longer. Sometimes I'll leave it over the weekend. And what's going to happen is all that water is going to settle out, and you're going to find that your clay is a lot drier, and so when you put it on your plaster slab, it doesn't saturate the slab right away. And it's going to speed things up. It's going to save you a lot of time. Now, this has only been sitting on there for about 5 minutes, or maybe even a little less. Let's pick it up and see how much water has already come out of the clay. So you can see that inside that bucket, now there's looks like about half a cup of water already. So in about 5 minutes already, a half cup of water is drained out. Now you can see it's pink. That's not from the clay. There was something else in the bucket beforehand. Maybe I did a little glaze mixing or something in here, but that pink is from something else. And the water will be crystal clear if you don't have anything else in your bucket. What I've learned through experimentation is that if you can keep the pillowcase shown in green here off the edge of the bucket, it'll drain much faster. When we go back to our coffee maker example, you can see at the inside of this one, there's ridges in there that allow the coffee to drain into the coffee cup, and it gives it a place to travel. So this system works much the same way. And that's why I had those binder clips at the top, and I'm thinking about using those grommets to keep the pillowcase away from the edges of the bucket and off the bottom of the bucket. So it gives a place for the water to come out of the through the pillowcase. Also, if you cut off the entire bottom of the bucket, that would also give it the same thing. So it would give a place for that water to come right out of the pillowcase really easily. Now, I haven't tried that yet, and I have some concerns that it might, alter the structural integrity of the bucket. So far, this has been working really good, just using binder clips to keep the pillowcase from touching the side of the bucket and to keep it off of the bottom of the bucket. I haven't had any problems, and it drains dramatically faster than if you have it touching the sides of the bucket and the bottom of the bucket like this. Okay, so that's my biggest tip. Make sure the pillowcase keeps off the side of the bucket, off the bottom of the bucket. Is, just even a little bit will really help. So that's my tip on making this system work better.